Good evening, everybody, and welcome again to the Borderline Podcast with me, your host, Andrew Willix. Guys, I know it's been a couple of weeks since I've had a guest on, but we're going to make up for that today. I've got the brilliant Liza on with me, who some of you may know, who used to be head ranger at St Abbs Head, or currently now is the owner of the Facebook page In Our Nature. Liza, it's brilliant to have you on the Borderline Podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing really well. Thanks for inviting me along.
Oh no, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to say we've had a good little 20 minutes chat just before we've got started. I think today's going to be quite a good little talk. So for those of the listeners that maybe don't know who you are, could you maybe just fill us in a little bit of your background, and obviously we'll lead into how we've gotten to where we are today.
Of course, yeah. So as you say, most people will probably relate me to one or other of the nature reserves here. My last job was head ranger at St Abbs Head Nature Reserve, and I was there for 10 years. And before that, I was the marine ranger for the Berwickshire Marine Reserve. So I came here back in 2005 to become the marine ranger.
Wow, that's nearly 20 years.
A long time ago. And been living here ever since. I haven't lived here longer than I've lived anywhere else in my life.
Really?
So it's definitely home now.
So whereabouts do you originate from?
Originally, I come from Surrey, sort of south of London. But I've travelled around an awful lot, working in nature conservation.
Wow.
You tend to go for where the jobs are. So I started off in the Highlands of Scotland, and then North Wales, Mid Wales, Devon, Dorset, and then the Scottish borders.
Wow, so you really have seen it all. Tremendous. Tremendous.
Yeah.
So did you go to university, anything like that? Obviously to
I
get
did, yeah. Back in the day, you had limited choices, not compared to these days where you've got loads of choices at universities. Yeah. So anyway, I did zoology because I like the animal part, but I thought the plants were a bit boring. Mm-hmm. I've changed my mind since then. So I did zoology at university, and was lucky enough to go into my chosen career. What I wanted to do was to share my passion for the natural environment, particularly coastal and marine, with other people, and sort of educate people and get them inspired about it and want to look after it like I do. Mm-hmm. And I've been incredibly lucky to be able to do that. I had 30-year career, and it was only came to an end as a ranger back in 2020 because of you can probably guess, COVID came. So I was made redundant back then, and that's when I had to sort of think, what am I going to do now then?
Yeah, what's the next chapter?
Yeah, so I didn't want to move, obviously. So I decided I would set up my own business and run wildlife tours. And it's a strange mixture of a business now. It's a little bit weird and wonderful, a bit like me. I also do therapeutic sound. So that's gong bars primarily. So I had been running gong baths sort of alongside my day job, just the odd one once or so a month, before I was made redundant. And I came to that due to mental health issues that I'd experienced myself.
Really?
Yes.
Oh no. Okay, so we do have a lot in common coming around here.
Absolutely. So being made redundant gave me an opportunity to expand doing that. Which has been fantastic.
It must be. I mean, we'll get onto the gong baths a little bit later, but I've, like so many people, even just at my work, I've been to, and it's all only positive things people return from. So it's something that I've been meaning myself to check out for a long time.
It's some kind of magic, I tell you. I don't know how it works, but it does.
Really?
Amazing.
So I'd say we'll speak about that a little bit later.
Yeah.
But I'm quite interested a little bit about me. I also done animal biology at university, so I'm kind of
kindred spirit.
So as I say, working around the coastal, that was kind of what would have been my dream job around here. So you must have absolutely loved it, like you say. There's so much around here.
Yeah, I mean it's amazing here, and it's something, if you're not careful, you're surrounded by it all the time, so you sort of take it for granted.
Exactly.
But there's not many places in the UK where you have a marine reserve and an important coastal reserve right next to each other, like we have here on the Berwickshire coast.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I've been so fortunate in my life. I've worked in some really fabulous places. I would say St Abbs, it's my second. It's not my first, but
Really?
the only reason why it's my second, I have to say, is because my first love is an island called Lundy off the coast of Devon.
Okay.
Where we used to go for my family holidays, all of my childhood. So it's where my soul lives, and it's the whole reason for me being interested in conservation and wild places and the sea. I was brought up in Surrey, an hour's drive away from the sea suburbia.
Well, I was going to lead into that.
So Lundy is my whole reason for being the person I am, really, I suppose. And I had the opportunity. I worked there as a barmaid and general, skivvy during my university vacations, but I got a chance to actually work there as the wildlife warden for 5 years. So that was my... to be able to give back to this place that had given so much to me.
That's fantastic.
So that's the only reason why St Abbs comes second, because, of course, nothing could beat that.
I was going to say, even down Devon, that's a lot of good nature as well, marine-wise down there. I mean, it's so temperate compared to...
It's really interesting having worked on the two different reserves, because again, Lundy is similar, that it was actually the first marine nature reserve in the whole of the UK back in 1973.
Wow, okay.
So it's been the sort of leading light in marine conservation in the UK. But it's been really interesting working on both these reserves, because, as you say, really temperate, and you get quite a lot of sort of Mediterranean, Atlantic, as they call them, so the warm water species on Lundy, whereas at St Abbs, we've got more of this sort of Arctic influence. Yeah. So it really sort of poles apart to work at two
that's amazing.
Diverse places. Yeah, it's brilliant.
I'm going to ask you a question, just because it's a great personal interest of mine, and you have worked at the two places, which I would love to learn a little bit more about anyway. Yeah. Do you believe it's feasible that there are great white sharks in the UK?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
I was going to say, down in Devon, that would be certainly.
Absolutely. There's been some well-documented sightings, just a little bit further south from the UK. And, the couple of sightings that have been had in the UK, they've not been totally out of the imagination.
One of them, I don't know if you know about this. Some guy, I think they were in the Moray Firth. Is that up at Inverness? Is it in the Moray Firth? Yeah. Yep. So they were just outside of them. They was trawling back in, and he caught something in the nets. Panicked at what it was, so cut his net, went back to shore to find help. Him and another boat went out to pull up the nets, and what they thought was a basking shark turned out to be around about 14-foot great white shark. And they snapped a photo of it, but all they got the photo was the dorsal fin and the trailing edge of the body.
No, what a shame.
So they sent off this picture to all the marine biologists working in the area, even foreign ones, shark ecologists. Every single one of them agreed it was a great white shark, until they were told it was from Scotland, and they said, well, it just can't be then.
Yes.
But it can be, because...
We've got so many... I mean, the marine environment is, there's that famous quote, isn't it, that we know more about the surface of the moon than we do about the bottom of the sea. But there's so much that we don't know. And there's all sorts of things off our coast. You speak to some of the fishermen off here, they've caught leatherback turtles here, all sorts of stuff. One of my neighbours came knocking on my door, was it last year? Might have been the year before. He said, I think I've just seen a swordfish. And I sort of went, well, okay, and he's been out at sea a lot in his life, so he's going to know it's something different. And we sort of looked it up and looked at the distribution maps, and it's not completely
out of the realms of possibility.
No, exactly. No. And it wasn't just him, it was his mate as well. So I believe he saw a swordfish.
Especially when there's two people collaborate in the story, then it's usually it's just always been people like that. They're just looking for that that third party clarity to say that is
or
what
a
you
photograph.
saw.
You get a photograph, then that's even then people will pore over it when they do. Yes.
No, that's amazing. As I say, and obviously coming up to St Abbs, like you said, that's a totally different realm from down in England. So how long did you work at St Abbs specifically for again? Sorry,
15 years.
15 years. Yeah, wow, that's a long time.
So
then,
5 years for the Marine Reserve itself, but then 10 years up at St Abbs Head, and of course the tour. It's only us humans that form a link between a Marine Reserve and a coastal reserve, isn't it? How ridiculous is that? There are no boundaries between the two. So of course inextricably linked. So so incredibly lucky.
So, on obviously to where you are now, obviously you were made redundant during COVID. So, obviously very hard time, I'm assuming, for you.
Yeah, it's a bit of a shocker after you've had a 30-year career and you're basically dumped on the scrap heap. I mean, I know people say you shouldn't take it personally because it's your job that's made redundant, not you. Well, do you know, when you're doing a job that's a vocation and you feel passionately about it, that's you. It's your identity, isn't it? And somebody's saying it's not worth paying the money to have that job, So it's a biggie. It's a biggie. And also I felt really angry for the reserve itself, the fact that they didn't think it needed somebody to look after it.
To look after it, which
it could
does,
because
we know how horrible humans are.
Yes, and huge numbers of people come to St.
Exactly.
So
well, that's it. It's a highly sought after place.
As
you say, it's a marine reserve. The amount of divers, that is a bit odd.
So it was a blow. But as we were chatting before we started recording, these things often have a silver lining, don't they? And I was suffering from work-related stress, anxiety. I've suffered from anxiety all my life, and had been off work with depression. It caused physical and mental ill health. I got IBS. Developed a heart arrhythmia. All sorts of things came from it. So really, the job wasn't doing me any good. And that sounds really odd, doesn't it? You're in this dream job in this dream place. Why? Well, how can you possibly be suffering from work-related stress? The reason being, I believe passionately that this place is needed and still needs to be looked after, but I wasn't being given the resources to do the job properly, and that's what was so awful. So the job wasn't doing me much good, really. And I'm of an age. I was in my mid-50s, 55 when I was made redundant. So I'd thought about leaving, but actually then I went, but what would I do to match up to this? So I decided to hang on. So in a way, if I hadn't been pushed, I wouldn't have jumped. I would have just hung on
and just kept
Sadly, you get to my age and you think, well, is anybody else going to employ me? And or what about me pension? So these sad things you have to think when you start going slightly that side of the half century. But so in a way it did me a favour because it made me think, well, what are my priorities? What do I want to spend the rest of my working life, 10, 12 years, doing? What do I enjoy doing? And I've been really lucky that I've been able to cobble together this, I think the posh word is a portfolio career, but I think of it as being like a jigsaw, that I do various different things to pay me bills.
Well, exactly that. I jumped onto your page, and like I say, I kind of like to pull away from guests a little bit. But then I was a little bit paranoid about this episode because it's like, well, you're doing so much. I didn't really know what to focus on. And I mean a compliment, obviously, of course. But you're a busy person.
Sadly bills need paying, so you have to. So I've sort of cobbled together that I'm doing. Obviously, the nature tours side of things is very seasonal. Really, for the really sort of sexy, juicy stuff, you're talking May till the end of August. That's sort of 4-month season. So it's really sort of short and weather dependent because it's mostly cruises. If the sea says you're not going out, you're not going out. and dependent on people coming to the area. And this last season wasn't brilliant. Most people will tell you it wasn't a brilliant season because people were having to tighten their belts. I think it's a cost of living crisis.
Yeah.
So there's no way I could make a living through that alone. I mean, obviously really interesting, the gong baths don't seem to have been affected by the cost of living crisis. Maybe that's because people feel they need something to...
it's a coping mechanism.
Yes, exactly. So the gong baths has gone great guns, really. And that's my main sort of income stream. But I also do 2 or 3 part-time jobs.
Yeah.
At the same time.
No, I was going to say, very, very busy person.
Yeah.
So obviously you're made redundant and you're trying to figure out exactly what is. How did you channel your ideas to think, right, that is it? And because obviously, like I say, the gong baths are so much different from marine biology.
They are indeed.
Obviously, did you used to have, any form of practice or any...
Yes, well, this has all developed out of my sort of mental health crises. I've over my life, I've suffered from anxiety. As I say, I've had depression a couple of times when I was younger. Soon after I moved here, it was a complicated move actually here because I decided to take a year out at the age of 37, I think I was. I moved all my furniture and my cat in with my mum, and I'd gone frolicking off around the world doing exciting things like monitoring coral reefs off Fiji and delicious stuff like that. Yeah, exactly. I'll just drop that in there, clang. You have to show off about these things.
Oh, definitely.
Anyway, but then I came back and I didn't have a job and I didn't have anywhere to live at the age of 37, and my mum dropped down dead.
Oh.
Yeah, and I was staying in her house. My dad had died years previous to that, and so then we had to sell the house, and it sold really quickly. That meant I didn't have a job, and then I didn't have anywhere to live.
Oh my God.
So, and literally the day before, I had to move out of our family home. That had been our family home all our lives. I came up here for an interview for the job.
Wow.
So I flew up, had an interview job, flew back down again, moved everything, including all my furniture and my cat, out of the house, and came back up to Scotland to stay with my sister. So that was quite stressful. My mum had died, I had a new house. And then I got the job at St Abbs, so that was a new job. So there's various things that they say are really stressful in their life, and I'd been doing 3 of them at the same time.
Well, I was going to say, there
and I'd come to an area where I didn't have a support network of friends. And then my brother died a couple of years later. So, life was really piling it on.
Yeah.
And so, not surprisingly, I bent and then broke at that stage and suffered bad depression. But this is where the silver lining comes in. And I remembered, what was really difficult is asking for help. I'm a bit of I've been brought up to be an independent, strong, Yeah. So admitting that I couldn't cope was like, oh, no, of course I can. I'm independent, strong. But B, then asking for help and knowing what help to ask for was an interesting one. Luckily, I knew I'd met somebody up here who'd suffered from depression, and she was going to see a counsellor. And if she hadn't spoken about that openly, that never would have crossed my mind.
Yeah, it's how beautiful it is to talk about open conversations.
Exactly. And so eventually I decided I was going to speak to a counsellor. And it takes a long time, but my, oh my, it's brilliant counselling. I think everybody should do it, whether you're suffering from mental health or not. I think everybody should go into counselling. It's so useful. And in the oldie days, we would have had a wise woman of the village that we would go and seek counsel from. So, it just happens to be missing in modern society.
Yeah.
And I remember very clearly she lent me a book that was called Sunbathing in the Rain, I think it was called. And it was written by a journalist who suffered from terrible depression. And very clearly I remember one passage where she said she got to think of depression as being her friend.
Yep.
And at the time, I thought, you must be bloody kidding it, flipping awful. Why can that possibly be your friend? But actually, I recognise that now because it is your friend, because it's pointing out, excuse me, you're going the wrong direction here. It has to shout really loudly before you actually listen and go on. So in a way, it was really useful for me to have that experience, because then I had the toolbox. I'd gone to counsellors and I started to build up all these sort of mechanisms to help me. Mm-hmm. So when I was made redundant, I was much more resilient. I could cope with it better than if I hadn't been through that experience previously. So it was a good thing. It was my friend.
Well, it's true. I mean, I get people give me odd looks, or have done in the past, because I name my anxiety. She's called she's called Judith, and it's a way to personify it. So, and this is going to be the first swear jar of the day.
Oh, watch out, Mum! Watch out, Mum!
Is I learned to deal with that whenever my anxiety would crop up. I would just tell it to fuck off. Right. To Judith personally, and even saying it out loud. Yeah. It was a way to. It wasn't me. It was me, but it was a different part of me that I just need to silence it every now and then. But as you say, she crops up to tell me that I'm potentially in danger. Now I'm not in danger, but she's just trying to protect me. It's the odd way that she behaves.
Yes, and we all have a Judith.
Yeah, we do. Yes. We do. Every one of us do. But like say, saying depression's your friend. That's I like that kind of value and sentiment, because.
But it was at the time I just thought that's absolutely ridiculous. But now in hindsight, I think you're right. Yeah. So interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And like you said, therapy, counselling is just it's
amazing,
life changing as well, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. Because we get into these terrible habits. Don't we?
Yeah.
And you sort of go down in a sort of spiral, and get sort of. I think of myself as when I have anxiety or whatever, I turn inwards, and I'm almost sort of. I can see myself sort of cuddling in almost to the sort of fetal position and repel all borders. Yeah. That's my independent me. You see, I don't need any help here. And it taught me that that wasn't a healthy way of doing things. It obviously wasn't working, and just talking. I think it's really useful to talk to somebody. Well, first off, talk to somebody who doesn't sort of laugh at you and say, "Pull your bloody socks up."
Oh yeah, I mean that's just so damaging, isn't it? Oh my God! I remember the first time I got prescribed antidepressants. I said to you before, I have always been very open about my mental health. It's just a condition like any other condition that we go through. And I remember the very first time that I got prescribed antidepressants. I went back from being down to the doctors, went back to work. We stood outside having a cigarette, speaking to somebody, saying, "I'm going on antidepressants." The fuck are you going on that for? You don't fucking need that. What you got to be upset about? I was like, yeah, all right. You're maybe not the intellectual type that I need to be speaking to about this.
Or empathetic type.
Yeah, but it's so damaging, isn't it?
It's hugely damaging. And I just saw a friend of mine posted on Facebook the other day something damning about antidepressants, and my God, it's whatever works. I mean, I do believe that they can be dangerous if you get addicted, or the big pharma's making lots of money. Totally subscribe to that. But when you're in that dark place, anything that can help you dig yourself out of that hole. And I because again, I went on antidepressants, and that was a big decision, because you're thinking, I've totally failed. I'm having to go on these drugs. Nobody else has to do it. Well, actually, do they? But anyway,
yes.
There's lots of people that don't talk about it. But to me, it was a little bit. I likened it to when I stopped smoking. Is that I used patches. So the patches were dealing with the chemical addiction, if you like, to nicotine, whilst I dealt with the habit. And so I likened that to my depression, is that the antidepressants were, stimulating the sort of the chemicals that were missing in my brain, helping lift that mood slightly, whilst I dealt with the terrible habits that I'd built up throughout my life. And coping mechanisms to try and
that is out of that. The best way I've ever heard anybody describe antidepressants. Honestly, that is such a You've hit the nail on the head
And it
there.
worked for me, and I came off them when I decided to.
Yeah.
And just sort of weaned myself off them. Had no problems whatsoever.
Good,
So,
good.
yeah.
Yeah. So that's amazing. So if you don't mind me asking, how many years have you been clear of antidepressants?
Oh gosh, when would I have stopped taking them? Probably about 5 years.
Oh
something
wow.
like that.
Yeah, so that is
I
good.
think,
Yeah, so it's been like a nice sustained period of time. So you're in a that's really good. So obviously how much obviously being up here, being in the country, how much does that lend itself to as well? It's so close to your core values of who you are that must really help you as well, that you've got the access to, get outside and help.
Yeah, of course it does. Totally. And that was what's so odd that I was suffering from mental health whilst I was actually working in the countryside, and I'd got that disconnect.
Mm-hmm.
I because I'd done this turning in thing, I wasn't seeing it, I wasn't realising. So yeah, I mean, it's just amazing. We all know that if you just take yourself out and wandering just round at Eyemouth Harbour and down to the beach, you just pop into the co-op. The fact you can walk along the beach to go to the co-op, how amazing is that?
Exactly.
With that fantastic view and going up to Santabs and further afield, there's so much amazing stuff. Or even just wandering through Netherbyers.
That's because it's one of my
favorite.
favorite.
Where you got the bird song and
the golf course for me. That's it's the only place where I've seen my minke whales as well. That's the only time that I've seen them off the sevenfold there.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of dolphins as well that I've seen. But every time I walk around the golf club, like you say, your eyes are or me, I am anyway, always looking at the ocean, and that's a distraction.
Yes. Well, if you can do it mindfully, sometimes, like when I was working on the nature reserve, I was so in my head, I wasn't seeing it.
Yeah.
So you have to remind yourself to look and listen and smell and feel and, or switch on your senses when you go out there in nature. Yeah. But it's, brilliant. It sorts you out, doesn't it?
So, and then obviously you're doing the gong baths now, which are focused on sound therapy.
Yeah.
Is that the way that you describe that?
Yeah.
So there will be people that listen that think, why would I want to go fill up a gong full of water and sit in it, which is what I thought it was. Like I said, I love baths. I thought, it's a big gong bath.
There we go, get me a gong. Yeah. No, it is odd. It is odd. I came upon the therapeutic use of sound through my mental health struggles. So I've always known intrinsically, that sound does it for me. I've always sung as a child. As soon as I could join a choir at school, I joined a choir. I still sing in a choir now. I sing all the time. My friends will tell you that I'm the sort of person that somebody says something and that I sing a little song that relates to that. But I make up songs about people walking their dogs and so obviously intrinsically I knew sound was really good for me, and I'd been doing some singing. I learned how to do Arabic and African drumming, so again sound was coming in there, and I went away to a weekend of workshops, and one of the workshops that was offered was mantra meditation, and I thought, well, I like singing. I'm a bit knackered. It's an opportunity to sit down. I'll go to that workshop.
Logic. Logic applies.
The lazy person's guide. Yes. So I went to this mantra meditation workshop, and it blew me away.
Yeah.
And that was, I call it as being my entry drug to sort of therapeutic sound. So mantra meditation, for those listeners who might not know what that is, that's repeating short phrases or even single words over and over and over again, really comes from various religions like Buddhism and Hinduism, Sikhism, particularly go for mantra meditation. But of course, Christianity, we have chanting in there, as to Jews, etc. But anyway, so I digress, which is one of my habits. So anyway, I discovered mantra. And then a friend of mine said, I've seen this thing called a sound bath. Do you fancy going along to that? So I went, all right then, if you come with me. Yeah. And we went along. And so the idea of the bath, there is no water.
No.
It is being bathed in the sound. So you're immersed. It's an immersive experience. And it usually involves, the first sound bath I went to didn't have a gong, but involved singing bowls of various types and lots of other instruments. And I was a bit blown away by that. But what I was really blown away by was when I went to sound bath that involved gongs, and it's just like, oh my God, the sound of that is completely sends it, completely switches off your brain.
Yeah.
And being it's slightly odd. My elder sister thinks I've gone totally barking. My younger sister, they both know I'm fairly barking all my life, but my younger sister sort of understands it a bit more. But my elder sister is definitely puzzled by it all, because it's all a bit hippie. Isn't it? Not very scientific.
It's not Western. It's not Western science. No.
Exactly. And actually, there's not very much science been done, because why would people do science on therapeutic sound? Because it's just hippie quackery. But I have to tell, so I have to quieten that analytical, scientific side of my brain and go, but look, your experience has been, it's transformed your life in lots of ways. And with me sharing it with other people, it's transformed other lives. I've had people who've come into gong baths and they're in constant pain. And at the end of it, they've said that took away my pain.
Yeah. Well, meditation does that.
Yeah. And it's just like, oh my God. So experientially, there's so much evidence that it works. We just don't know the mechanism why.
Why? Yes.
So for me, that's the nearest to a leap of faith I've ever had, is that I know it works. And, the opportunity to share that with others, a bit like, I suppose, with my journey with nature, that I always wanted to share my passion. Now I not only want to share my passion for nature, I want to share my passion for sound.
Yeah.
Because, so really the two strings to my business run parallel in that way. It's using the same aspects of me, I suppose, that I want to share that with other people because it's fab.
Yeah, I mean, every time I've got a guest on, I find something relatable, and I'm like, oh my God, it's happened again. And it's just happened again that probably the last 2 months I've been trying to teach myself to sing. I've learned, I used to play a lot of music back in my teens.
Sing.
Everybody can sing.
We sing all the time. When we're talking, we're singing.
It's what I'm just figuring that out, that, that I might not sound perfect. No. Nobody probably does, apart from, your celebrity singers and what, yes.
No, maybe not.
And I love it because I'm at the stage now that I don't actually really care if I sound bad to other people.
Great.
Because it's a release for me, and I know how that works for other people that like to say you've got music and sound, and it's just so therapeutic.
We all know that songs can make us dance, they can make us laugh, they can make us cry. We all know.
Yeah.
But it's just if it's a bit weird involving gongs and lying down on a village hall floor. It is a bit weird. Yeah. I totally understand why people think.
Could you just describe to me what the kind of setup is then? Obviously.
Okay. Yeah, sure. So I will turn up with my instruments to whatever venue that I have chosen to use. So I do gong baths in Colding and Priory because, oh my goodness, what a beautiful building with fantastic acoustics. And I set up my instruments, and I use not only gongs, I use a bit of drum. I borrow from all sorts of things. There's no such thing as a new idea. Yeah. So I use drums using a shamanic beat that shaman have used for millennia to send people into a trance. So I cheat. I use that at the beginning of my gong baths. I use Himalayan singing bowls, so the metal singing bowls.
I love them.
I use chimes. Mostly it does concentrate on the gongs, so I've got 2 gongs, and also I do a little bit of singing at the end.
Oh, nice.
And I play the instruments. Well, when people come in, getting ahead of myself. When people come in, they make themselves, I call it nests. They make lovely beds. They bring all their nesting material with them. There's the biological terms, you see. And they set themselves up, so they either lie on the floor. Some people choose to sit or whatever. So they lie down, make themselves really comfortable. I will start things off with a guided physical meditation. So just to make people, because it is weird. they're lying on a floor with a load of total strangers. So if they haven't done it before, it's really weird. But anyway, so, you try to make people feel comfortable and relax physically in the first place. And then I improvise using these instruments. And the whole thing takes around about an hour.
Yeah.
Most people will say to me, excuse me, I paid for an hour and that was only 10 minutes because they've gone somewhere.
Yep.
It's completely a thief of time. And then afterwards we have tea and cake.
Oh, nice.
Which is rather nice because the sound, it does change your brainwaves. So it changes it from the alert state into, that state when you've just woken up or you're daydreaming. Or if you're really lucky, it takes you right into the deep meditative state that practiced meditators get to. Same as sort of REM sleeps, really, really deep theta brainwaves. So when at the end of the gong bath, people sort of come round sort of gently, and you can feel the term in the trade is called blissed out.
Yeah.
So it's like a little bit tipsy, slightly lightheaded.
Yeah.
So really important to actually take the time to have something to eat and drink to ground you before people go and jump in their cars and drive.
Yeah, it's a good point.
So yes,
it's a good
so
point.
it is always nice to eat cake and drink tea, but there is a sort of a sensible reason.
Yeah, that's a really good point, that you can't have people just flinging up the Moors roads.
There may not be a breathalyzer to test for the influence of gong, but it definitely could, affect your driving skills.
I could, yeah, because I mean, like we said just before when started recording this, I'm big into my meditation. You must get, would you get people that have practiced meditation that are then going to this, that are then they just fall into, like you say, that deep. I don't want to say the word because it's usually in line to psychedelics, but trip.
They do. I mean, you have people who see colours, you have people who see shapes, you have people who go on amazing journeys. I've had one person who was flying around the room in their mind. So it's sort of, and I think if you're a practice meditator and you're open to this idea of where is this going to take me, where is this journey going to go today, then you probably have more exciting, but journeys and flying around the room, experiencing. But lots of people say to me, "Gosh, I saw these amazing colours. What's that all about then?" And I say, "I don't know." How lovely for you.
Yeah, it's so bizarre because nobody really knows. No. Meditation's been practiced for centuries, millennia, and it's the one staple that always works, and we don't really know why. Is it pineal gland? What is going on
Lots
there?
of theories,
Yeah, but it's it seems to be now more people are a lot more open to it.
Yes.
Would you say that you get a lot of people turning up that, and I don't want to say that you'd describe any stereotypes of anybody like that, but you'd maybe be like, oh, I didn't expect to see.
Well, me.
There you go. There we go. The perfect.
I never believed I'd be doing this sort of thing. Never believed I'd be doing this in a million years. But yes, we get lots of people who do turn up. People who are a bit sceptical about it. People who maybe been brought along by a friend. Lots of people who, I won't use the word desperate, but they are searching. They're searching for something to help.
Yeah.
And I like to think that, a lot of people have found it. Not everybody gets it. Not everybody does. And I think that's partially to do with whether you open yourself to the experience or not.
It's entirely true because you have to be open-minded. Yeah. For meditation to work, you have to allow it to work.
Allow it to, yeah.
Because, when I first started practicing it, I would have been the one sat on the deck and out there, and after 50 minutes, it's just like, why am I not seeing the stars yet? Why am I not seeing the stars yet? No, it's a long process that you need to put, but once you do, best thing you can.
Exactly.
It's the best thing you can have in your armour for I think anyway.
Yeah. And I describe gong baths as, well, I do describe it as being magic because it is, but as being lazy person's meditation, because basically all you have to do is lie there and accept. Yeah. Yeah. So you don't necessarily have to do the hard work of focusing on your breath or focusing on a candle or focusing.
Because that can be hard.
Yeah.
Especially when you're new to it.
Yeah.
Like I say, it's a hard thing for humans to sit still.
It is.
And not do anything. Literally not do anything.
In modern life, it really is. Or to give yourself permission to do that.
Yeah. Important that you say that. Yeah. Because a lot of people just, they'll like the idea, but they won't, like I've said before, you won't accept that this is what you're doing because how could this cure me of my pain? It can't be possible. It's just my own mind. Your mind's a lot more powerful than what you'd probably ever think it will be.
We know that.
Yeah.
There is so much proof about the power of the mind. Everybody talks about, it's just the placebo effect. But actually, hang on. If you look at the placebo effect, you give some people drugs or pills with active ingredients in and they get better. You give some other people pills that look exactly the same but have got no active ingredients in, and 75% of them get better.
Yeah.
So actually, which one's more powerful here?
Yeah.
Is it actually the pharmaceuticals or is it the mind? So yeah, it's an amazing thing, and yeah, I'm so glad that I can share.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. So what obviously you spoke about Codenham. Codenham Hall, Priory. What other villages towns around here do you?
So I do once a month. I do one in Coldingham. It's usually the last Friday of the month, but it depends on what's going on in my life, whether the church is available, etc. I also do one once a month in Berwick, or outskirts of Berwick, in Eastwood Village Hall. Chalk and cheese venues there, very interesting, big.
You like your differences, don't you?
and the gong baths, some people prefer them in Coldingham, some people prefer them in Eastwood, some people like them both because they're contrasting experiences. Eastwood, much more intimate, and you can feel the vibrations through the floor. I also do one a month in Dunbar in St Anne's Church.
Oh wow, cool. So that's a bit further afield as well.
Yeah. So have gongs will travel. That's what I say. And as long as it's not too far, because then of course I have to take into account how much of my time, fuel. Sadly, it is a business, and fuel, as you say. So sort of within an hour's radius. So I've just started doing. I've been invited to do gong baths as part of the retreats that are being run by the folk at Cove Wigwam Holidays there.
Oh, yeah.
Just up between Pease Bay and Cove there. They've got the wigwams. And Rosie, one of the two folk who've set it up, is a yoga teacher and very into cold water therapy. You might want to speak to her.
I might need, I was just starting that up. So I forget we're in March now. I've got to go up and get to the beach soon.
But anyway, so she set up a yoga studio there, and she's doing retreats, and she invited me to come along and do the sound path and to do a gong bath in the retreats. And I've been speaking to somebody in North Berwick and people over at Denham. I'm going across there in April. So it's just fitting it in. That's the trouble. Well, not enough time.
No, like I say, I know there's definitely two people from work at I'm Freezers. Definitely two people that went for it. I think 3 actually. Yeah, it was 3 of them. I've been to it, and up at Codenham, and they loved it. In fact, I think 2 of them's been more than once now.
Yeah, I have many returns.
Yeah, well, that was because I take it that was going to be my next question. Was I take it you get a lot of people hooked on it as well? Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. It's just a lovely thing to do for yourself. I mean, I say to lots of people, you've done all the work just turning up because you've given yourself permission to spend a bit of money and take some time out from your busy life for self-care.
That's I always like to try and promote that. I know it's not feasible every single day, but you should try 1 hour a day is just for you. And just, don't feel bad, don't feel negative that you could be doing something else. It's very important to have a little bit of self-care in your life, or else these problems that are building up in the back are going to come on top of you when you least expect it as well.
Absolutely. Well, it's the old adage, isn't there? If you think you haven't got time to meditate for 20 minutes a day, you need to meditate for an hour.
Wow, I haven't heard that before.
Have you not?
Heard that before.
That's what they say. You need more of it.
I'm going to start using that.
Yeah.
That's it. I tell you something that I listen to not regularly. I should really do it a little bit more for kind of the ADHD side of my brain or whatnot. Is 8D music. Have you ever listened to that? Or
I haven't. No. Is that similar to binaural beats?
Yes. Yeah, very similar. Okay. Very odd feeling. Obviously, you have to use headphones with it. And it really does feel like the sound comes in one ear and does this little travel for your brain. Then you feel it the other ear and it back and forth. So obviously just working on them frequencies. again, it just highlights once more how music, how sound, how our environment, how what information we're picking up will change our moods and our emotions. And no, it's just really interesting to find, obviously, something that is so different,
a bit out there,
out there, yeah. You know, gong baths is just. I mean, it just sounds lovely, though, doesn't it? Like gong baths. It's just so nice.
It wasn't me that coined the phrase. It was that's a phrase that's used a lot around here. But
so would you keep on doing that during the summer months, or when? So you still do that when doing the tours,
right the way through.
Yeah.
You tend to have slightly fewer people in the summer months because, of course, that people go on holiday, and if they've got kids, of course, they've got childcare to deal with, and or it's nice out. So if you're somebody who likes to go for a swim or sailing or paddleboarding or playing tennis or whatever, there's more to do, isn't there, in the summer? So there's more competition. But I carry it on because also people still need to keep up their practice.
That's important for people as well. And like, do you feel that you have a responsibility to provide that now that there is that kind of therapeutic aspect for people?
Slightly. So that's why I do continue it through the summer. But it's interesting. I certainly wouldn't call myself a therapist.
No.
In any manner of means. I call myself a therapeutic sound practitioner because it's the sound that's the therapist. It's not me. I'm just an ordinary Joe. I'm not qualified in any kind of counselling or psychotherapy or anything like that. And I don't feel comfortable with even the suggestion that I might be.
It's a very modest way of describing it.
No,
yeah.
Well, no, not at all. I mean, that's not my skill set.
No. So, are you looking to grow it, or are you just going to see how the journey takes you?
I'm just following my nose at this stage. Yeah, seeing how things go and how life unfolds. Yeah.
That's so cool. That's so cool. To go back onto your wildlife thing a little bit.
Yeah.
Just go pick your brains. What's kind of the oddest things that you've seen up around here?
Interesting question.
I know. Yeah, it's just because people might not know what we all have in our waters, what we all see.
Well, I mean, I suppose. I mean, I don't. I've turned into a bit of a Southern Jessie in me older. Mid-years. I don't dive in cold water anymore. I'm a wussy warm water diver, but I have dived in the seas
scuba diver,
off St Abs, and still swim and still snorkel in the seas here. And I don't know if you'd call it odd. I suppose it depends. The most amazing thing, I think, is just dipping your head under the water and seeing the variety of life that's under there and the colourfulness.
Yeah.
Because most people think it's the North Sea, so it's cold and it's grey. And it's full of oil rigs, isn't it? So it's just a bit dirty. So, the clarity of the water that we have off here and all of those colours and the variety of life and when you say odd things, look at a wolffish, that's pretty odd. We've probably got the most accessible wolffish. That's what St Abs is sort of famous for, is these strange looking
they are
fish.
scary, aren't they?
Scary looking, but they're not actually scary fish. They're really shy and just have big teeth for eating crunchy things. So and the fact that we've got corals in the waters, not only corals that you'll find all the way around the British Isles, but interestingly, we were talking about, to go right the way back to where we started off, comparing Lundy and St Abs and the warm water and cool water. We've still got that little finger of the Gulf Stream that comes up and over Scotland. So we've got Devonshire cup corals in the seas off St Abs. It's amazing.
I was actually about to ask you, would the Gulf Stream pick up Devon stuff? And if something was, it would follow that stream up, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and just it comes about as far south as us and the Farns. So the Farns also have sort of Devonshire cup corals. And I've never seen them, but things like triggerfish, which have been seen off St Abs.
This is really weird because you were just talking about the wolffish, and I was thinking in my head the most dangerous important thing that I think was a bloody triggerfish that was scuba diving one time that would not leave me alone. Sorry.
was it a Titan triggerfish?
Oh my god!
You were near its nest.
So territorial, aren't they?
Yes, it's not the Titan one that you get. But anyway, so getting these these incredible sort of warm water species in the North Sea. That's a bit odd, isn't it? I guess, but I suppose the most exciting thing, I don't know, is always exciting to see dolphins. It's always exciting to see the odd occasion that you see whales.
Whales, yeah. Like I said, I couldn't believe it when I seen the minke whales that day. They're huge. I mean, but they're not.
But they're tiddlers as far as whales are concerned, aren't they? Yeah, they are pretty big.
Well, I genuinely thought I was playing the 7th hole Sunday at golf. I'd already putted out. I was standing there at the side of the green, and then I seen 3 in kind of parallel sense, just the tiny little dorsal fin, and that's what gave it away straight away. I was just, that's a minke. That's not a dolphin. That's a minke whale. And then the size came, and I went, "Ooh, wow, that's definitely big. It's a lot bigger than anything I've ever seen living before." And then after it, I was just like, you get humpbacks around here, and they're just the next level again. I'm like, I just don't know what you can't really comprehend.
No, and again, that takes us back to great white sharks. There's stuff in the seas around here that we don't realise are about. There's recording with recordings done by the military, as I understand. There's recordings of blue whales off the UK.
Wow.
Yeah.
I had no idea about that.
I mean, sound travels quite a long way underwater, but so there's evidence that there are blue whales in the area, so isn't that amazing?
Well, I always find when you're certainly talking about predators as well, killer whales, orcas, if they're around your waters, it usually tends to be that there's reason for them to be. And I've never seen them around here. Yeah. But I know they're reported down too far down
and
the
they
coast,
have been recorded off St. Abs.
And off St. Abs, So, they do, obviously not residents here, but you do get stuff passing through, which is always a really good sign of a healthy ecosystem as well.
Well, yeah, absolutely. When you've got top apex predators about, that's sign that the ecosystem below them's got to be okay.
Yeah.
There'll be the residents from up in Shetland and Orkney coming down for a little summer holiday down here, presumably to have a nibble on our seals. Yeah.
Well, we've got plenty of them.
Yes.
We've got plenty of them.
Yes, indeed. That's why they come. Yeah. Yeah. So, so there's all sorts of... And I think what's so exciting about the natural world is that you're never quite sure what you're going to see.
That's the beauty and the mystery of it. Is there anything that scares you in the ocean?
Not here, no. Apart from the ocean itself.
Yeah, but it's a strong. You need to respect that. You don't mess about with it.
Yeah, you don't mess about with it. I have. Well, off Lundy, I did jump in and snorkel with a basking shark, and we know basking sharks are filter feeders. They don't have teeth that can hurt us. But when it turned around and swam towards me with this huge, great mouth, I was almost walking on water, I tell you. But made my heart beat a little faster.
They're big fish, aren't they?
They are big fish. Big fish. So anything that's bigger than you is slightly alarming, I think. Just not because they're necessarily going to have your leg off or whatever, but I don't know. Just
Jellyfish for me.
Oh, really?
Oh, petrified of them.
I think they're beautiful.
I mean, they're cool.
Yeah.
And I can get some of them are gorgeous and beautiful creatures. They just terrify me. Yeah, not so much the ones you get off here. They don't really terrify me.
Yeah,
but,
you're not alone in
the box jellyfish, the Irkan's jellyfish, which is, miniature. The fact that they exist and they can kill you just scares me so much. Same with the little, is it the water snail? Is it I think you get them in Australia that are like stupidly hepatotoxic.
I don't know.
And I was just like, how? How did people survive?
Yes. Well, I think Australia's got most of them.
Oh, it really does.
I think we're probably all right at St. Anne's as far as those things are concerned.
But no, I'd say going into your basket, I swam with a whale shark once, and they're just
well gel.
Well, obviously you can appreciate how big it was. I think it was around about. The guy said on the boat it was 34 foot. I don't think it was quite 34 foot. I've never swam against anything that was bigger than that. It just didn't seem that big. But they can get big. But that same thing, we jumped in the water and it was looking about in the big, vast, deep. I mean, we were 21 miles offshore. Yeah. And then it just appeared. Yeah. And then they say that the size, it was the size of the head and the size of the tail and the mouth that really threw me off. That I was just like I've loved sharks. I've always wanted to work with sharks. And it was a bucket list thing, and you kind of humbling at the same time to the fact that, as you said, this is a filter feeder and it's huge. How would I be with a 12-foot tiger shark?
Yeah. Exactly. With sharp teeth.
Yeah, with the sharp teeth, and
yeah.
you have to understand their behavior a little bit more, and before you even get in the water with them. But no, the ocean is like the most important part that you touched on there as well. Is the water itself needs to be respected.
No, you talked about jumping in the blue with the whale sharks.
Yeah,
that I think is probably doing a dive in the blue has been the scariest dive I've ever done.
Yeah,
because you just think, oh my God, what happens if
don't. Well, you can't, but everything goes out the window. When you jump in the middle of the ocean, you're throwing out everything. Like you're just, going on the what should be here, what shouldn't be here, and that's it.
And the people on the surface.
And the people on the surface. Yeah, I mean, after that, nature can do what it wants with you in that situation, because, to kind of explain the vastness of what jumping in the open water is like, because I was told at the surface, whatever you do not start looking about. Because once you start looking about in the open water, you're going to get, as stupid as it sounds, you're going to get lost and you're going to get seasick. Straight away. Just focus, because everything's just blue. Luckily, there was a 30-foot shark in front of me to distract us from that.
Give you something to focus on. Yeah, excellent.
But it really is quite disorientating, isn't it?
Really,
yeah. And I've dived quite a bit, and I love scuba diving. I always try and preach it why people should scuba dive. I guess
more passion.
The passion. But I can understand why people don't. But I mean, it really is just such a different world.
It is,
and it's so calming.
Really calming. It's the closest you're ever going to get to flying, I think, isn't it? Because if you get your buoyancy right, and you're just sort of floating in the water, and you're just lovely.
Well, the buoyancy. It's I hate to go and ramble on about myself too much. But this is what I'm starting to now. I was diving in Mexico once, and I'd always done like the kind of belt, the I've forgotten the name, the weighted belt. And you inflate to come up and whatnot down. But then the instructor that time is just going to use your lungs this time, and you've got to take a big deep breath to go across the coral shelf, and then you're going to exhale and you're going to come back down into the coral shelf. And I'd never done that before, and then it's exactly the same. You're like, I'm in control here. I am in control. I'm flying. I'm weightless. This is amazing. No, this has been a really, really, really cool chat. To have somebody on that's obviously so kind of samey with animals, marines and stuff like that. It's not often that we get to sit down and talk to somebody good, like that. So it's so good. And to learn about the musical therapy as well is so far up my street too. Is there anything at all that you'd like to say? Or any other points that you'd like to cover?
I don't think so. I suppose I'd like to congratulate you on doing these podcasts because I think it's so important that people talk. I mean, I waffle on about my mental health. People think she's always showing off about her mental health, but I do it deliberately because I think it's helpful for people to know that there's lots of us out here. If we've broken our legs or whatever, why wouldn't we talk about it?
Yeah.
And we just happen to that our brain's a bit broken, that's all. So it's so important that people can see that there are other people out there with issues.
And something that we touched on before the episode and something during the episode is that if there are people out there struggling just now, and you happen to come across this episode, just know that there is a silver lining to what you're going through. That there will be a positive come off that negative. That's just the way the world works. It has to work that way. And people that will listen back to this episode, you would have helped a lot of people.
Good.
Definitely, it's been a lovely little chilled episode, and I certainly hope that people listening that maybe have possibly thinking, the gong baths. Don't really want to go up and get my bikini on and do that. You don't need to worry about that now.
No, I promise no bikinis.
No. So no. I just want to thank you, obviously, from the bottom of my heart. Just thank you for giving me a bit of your time today. I know that you're an incredibly busy person. Yeah. And would love to have you back on in the future too, to talk about how things have been going.
All sorts of things.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we can fill a good couple of hours.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Once again, Liza, thank you so much for coming on.
You're more than welcome.
Guys, that's it for us tonight. I hope you've really enjoyed this episode, and I'm sure there's loads of information, whether it be music therapy or just about what's in our oceans around our local coastlines that you can take away from it. Until then, though, guys, this has been Andrew Willix. Until the next time, good night.